Welcome to the Rise of Cryptocurrencies show. Today I have a special interview because we get to hear from billionaire, venture capitalist, and Silicon Valley mogul, Timothy Draper. He's founder of Draper Associates, which has funded Skype, Hotmail, Tesla, Baidu, Theranos, and Overture, among others. With Draper Associates, investments include Twitch TV, and Indiegogo, DocuSign. He's a huge Bitcoin enthusiast and a blockchain investor. Tim, how are you today?
Terrific. How are you?
Tim, I'd like to start with, can anyone listening to this interview become wealthy in your opinion? Are there opportunities out there for everyone?
Yeah, I think anyone who thinks for themselves can become successful if they're willing to fail and fail again until they succeed. I think it's important to keep trying new things. The world is very dynamic and it's accelerating, and so change is really a part of the world. And people who embrace it, I think, will have a better chance for success. Even if you're in a country where they have a bad government, your chances are lower, but you can overcome those because governments come and go, and they're going to come and go faster and faster now because of social media and the fact that all governments now have to compete with one another for us, for the great minds and the entrepreneurs and the capital and the citizens of the world. And if that's the case, you're going to be in a situation that is dynamic, changing, and you can capitalize on those changes. So I would say yes. Anyone in the world now who has access to a smartphone, I think, is capable of doing pretty much anything in this new world economy.
Tim, employees working 8 hours a day, how can they carve time and energy to build secondary incomes or build a business?
I would do both. I would focus on the business on the job you have and build it up as much as you possibly can, but also make sure that you pull your head up and look around and see what's happening around the world. It'll help you. Sometimes just jobs where you cling to a job will change, where maybe the company goes out of business and then you're at their mercy, or maybe there's a new opportunity that hits your company where you can jump into the front of the parade there. So any of those things can happen. I do think that keeping your head down, working hard, really does pay off because you learn so much. But I also think that it's good. So learn to go deep, but also learn to go horizontal. Understand what all the other people in your business are doing. Go take them all to lunch, and then understand your business, and not necessarily from listening to the news. I think it's more valuable to read trade rags or understand different points of view. And then when people say, "Hey, let's go do something for the weekend," do it. Just go. Read a lot, play a lot, and build a great group of friends and network. And always ask people what they do, because then you'll get a bigger and broader view of the world. So when share a commute or become an Uber driver or whatever, and ask people what they do. You'll start getting a picture. And if you're ever in an airplane, always look to your left, look to your right, make sure you find out what each of them does. It'll build you a picture in your head of what all the people of the world are doing. It's a small sample, but you start being able to put things together, and then it will help you in designing your career. And do think in terms of designing your career. Think in terms of what your career could be and how you want to get there, and plan it out. And I find that at the beginning of every year, I put together a list of things I want to accomplish, and I try to get them done in the first 3 to 6 months. It usually takes a year, but you get them sort of done in the first 3 to 6 months. The other 9 to 6 months are used for sort of perfecting it, or cleaning up the mess that you've created when you start something new.
What are the principles that brought you advancement in your life, looking back in hindsight?
Fearlessness, I think, is the most important. Do not run scared. Always try, always do the thing that's hardest first. If you have to fire someone, do it right at the beginning of the day. If you have to, if they're the biggest challenge of your day, get it done very quickly, get it done fast and thoroughly, and do a good job at it. And just do it. Just go, and it's like a Nike thing. Just go and do it, and then you'll have all this extra time to do the things that are easier, or will require less of your effort or time. I think. And everybody should read my book. It's just about to come out. It's called The Startup Hero, and a lot of my I guess you'd call them principles are in there. And what it really does for people is it gives them an opportunity to think heroically. So think in terms of running into the fire to pull the people out, rather than running from the fire. The press spreads fear, so I don't recommend watching the news. It's okay to read it, but I don't think it's healthy for a mind to take in that much fear in one sitting. So I don't recommend listening or reading or watching the news. I think it's, read a few great magazines each week, something like The Economist or the Financial Times, and they will give you a really good understanding of all the dynamics that are happening in different places, and they don't overreact to what things are going on in the world. And then the other thing I would say is travel. I think it's important to see different countries, understand different people, and what their thoughts are, their issues are, their opportunities are, their industries are. I think that's all really valuable.
How is government's role in the world changing right now and in 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, the word entitlements always sort of haunts me. I always think, wait, what? I've never felt entitled to anything, and I don't think it's appropriate. I think, sure, there are people who need a safety net or a security of some sort so that they can participate in the world economy. But entitlement assumes that somehow you deserve something for just being born, and I don't think that's appropriate. I do think that governments are going to go through amazing changes over the next 10 or 20 years. For one thing, today governments, at least the U.S. government, spends about 50% of the GDP in the U.S. is government. And so that means that sort of for every one worker, you've got one person just telling them what to do. And I don't think that's as efficient or effective as we can be, particularly because what government normally does is they keep track of people, they keep records, and they insure people, so they create insurance uh, for medicine, for healthcare, or for other things, and then they give pensions, and um, they provide pensions with taxpayer money, and they provide welfare when the chips are down. Well, it's interesting that all of those things are better done on the blockchain. It's the perfect ledger. It keeps perfect records. It's incorruptible. It's honest, and individuals all have their own identity on it. Can have their own identity on it. So I actually believe that governments now have a much smaller, at least the large governments. I think local governments do have a real need, but large governments are losing their reason to live, reason to exist, or at least their roles in society are much smaller. Geographic borders are falling. We can easily move from country to country. And if we can't physically move from country to country, we can virtually move from country to country. In fact, this is virtual country to country, this interview. And we can pick and choose the government we like. And that means governments have to be accountable. They have to compete for us. And they have to be efficient. They have to do a good job with the money that they tax us with. And that's going to change pretty much everything. There are now, 200 fiat governments, fiat federal governments in the world. They're all starting to compete for us. And they will, and all the state governments, local governments, they're all competing for us. I see the world being a little less international and a little more global, where we're all a part of one world. And I think that is coming faster and faster. And that means that there are going to be world governance projects and products and services that are going to be provided. And a lot of those will be provided by the blockchain. And so now, because the blockchain, I mean, I'd much rather have Bitcoin than a fiat currency of any kind, because the fiat currency can only really be used in that one country or two countries that accept that particular fiat currency. Whereas if I have Bitcoin, I can move from country to country, and if my country falls apart, I can move to another country and just pull down my Bitcoin and get started again. Whereas if I'm in Nigeria and my country falls apart, which it does sort of regularly, my Naira become worthless, and then I have to go to another country and I have no money and I have to start from scratch again. I think that these are very exciting times. I think we are going to have a much wealthier world because of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. I think we're going to have much more liquidity, and the more liquidity we have, the more freedom we have, and the more freedom we have, the wealthier we get. The freer the country, the wealthier the country, and that's been consistent throughout history. The more command and control the government is, the more likely that government is to fail. The more open and free the government is, the more likely that government is to succeed.
Where are the opportunity to supply better services for millennials? Where are they getting lousy services and overpaying for it that you see as an opportunity?
Well, I think this is the way I invest. I look and I say, what industries are oligopolies providing bad service at a high cost, and what technologies can allow an entrepreneur to break into that industry and potentially transform it? And that's how I invest. That's what I'm looking for. And so with when the internet came along, it transformed entertainment, gaming, music, communications, information, transformed some very big industries. When marketplaces came along, those distributed marketplaces transformed the taxi business, the hotel business. We have a couple of companies that are transforming the legal profession. We have Law Trades is transforming the legal profession. We have one working on the PR profession called Upbeat, and all of these are getting transformed by marketplaces. Well, now the Bitcoin and the blockchain have come along. That's a whole new set of technologies, and they can go after some of these industries that have until now been pretty much unaffected by the internet, and those are generally the ones that are government regulated, and that includes real estate and insurance and banking and investment banking, anything finance related, anything currency related, and government itself. All of those are ripe for the transforming. And if there are good entrepreneurs out there with good ideas, I would guide them toward using the blockchain or Bitcoin or some sort of a cryptocurrency to transform these industries where we don't get good service. I mean, government, it's the worst service for the highest cost. And that will certainly change over the next 20 years.
What are your thoughts on gold?
I like gold, but I don't want to carry something around like that. I mean, we've gone so far beyond that. We don't really require gold to buy things. It's a shiny metal that can be used in computers and jewelry and that kind of thing. So that's terrific. But I've never really found its luster as attractive as currencies that are much more liquid. Carrying around gold and trading gold for a cup of coffee seems pretty like, we're going back into the caveman days. So I think I'd rather move forward toward currencies that are more liquid and easy to use and frictionless and are global. So I think I'd rather move that way than move back.
What do you think are the most important job skills, occupational skills, traits, basically, that teenagers or people searching for direction or anyone looking for a career change should be learning right now?
So I always think languages are helpful because I travel a lot and I wish I knew more languages. I also think that learning to code is probably a good idea. I think coding should be a language that we teach in first grade or kindergarten. When you're 5 or 6 years old, I think you should start learning coding because your brain works very flexibly that way. And for everyone, and with a real emphasis on women, I would say focus on math and science. Get fascinated with how science works, how things work. Even if you don't naturally feel that way, make sure that you're focused very heavily on math and science. I think math is money and science is progress. And then get into science fiction, because people's imaginations tend to be the first step in really advancing humanity and moving progress forward. Think about how we get off this planet and into space, how we're going to live out there, how we're going to make this planet work better for us, how we're going to cure various diseases, how we're going to move and transport from one place to another very quickly and efficiently, how we're going to communicate in a better way. Um, all of those things, there's so many things, how we're going to move product from place to place, how we're going to feed ourselves. These are all really great big questions that that have great science fiction uh, solutions. And I highly recommend science fiction, science and math, coding, and languages. And then you're going to be all set. And, you know, I mean, it's fine to study history, just thinking in terms of how do you apply history to the future. Whenever I studied history, all I was thinking was, I mean, the best way to study history, if you have to go through history studying, is I would focus on the dates, do a timeline, and figure out what trends are happening, and then project into the future and make sure you're always thinking of projecting into the future. At Draper University, I think we're the only school in the world that assigns science fiction reading. And science fiction reading is absolutely mission critical for progress in society. So there you go.
How important is having a partner?
Well, it's important to know where you're weak and where you're strong. And it's very unlikely that you will be able to build a business all by yourself, or at least one of any significance. Although Instagram was started and was bought by Facebook when they only had 11 people, and it was $1 billion. So I recommend keeping your team lean, but partners are great. I've had some terrific partners along the way, and they have added a lot of thought and interest and understanding to the way I look at the world, and they've added a lot to my life. And I think it's also nice when you have a time where you have to be in two places at once, to have somebody be able to fill in for you. Those are all really important. A lot of great entrepreneurs build their business and don't really have a partner, but I know that they all have confidants and people that they work with. If you're the CEO, you're going to still need a VP of engineering, a VP of marketing, VP of sales, VP of manufacturing, if you do manufacturing, VP of product maybe. You're going to need people to help you, and just understand that they are your partners.
How about employees? What can they do in terms of finding a partner or a confidant?
Oh, I would say your boss, your subordinates, and your contemporaries. I think you all of them are available to be your partner or your confidant or whatever. And I find that being open tends to be a real benefit to people in a large business. The more open you are, the more likely it is that you'll make huge mistakes and people will laugh at you. But it's also much more likely that you will have a better understanding of what it is you do and why, and you'll be more effective in your job because you'll have a better understanding of what's going on around you. Ask stupid questions and be embarrassed. So what? So what if you don't look smart one day? The next day you'll look twice as smart.
Tim, what are the next stages for Bitcoin to become even more important?
Well, I think engineers are today solving some of the issues of speed and distribution, and so I hope that those get solved. I'm looking forward to the time where I can pretty much buy anything with Bitcoin. And I think we're getting there. I mean, I know a lot of, we were the first school in the world to, Draper University, the first school in the world to ever accept Bitcoin. And we accepted it. And I think Bitcoin was at about 250 at that time. And so suddenly, we sort of forgot about that wallet, and now it's worth $1 million or something. And and that was for two people to go to Draper University for 7 weeks. So we do hero training, and it's quite extraordinary to come and get your hero training, but we don't charge that much. We charge about it's something like $10,000 for the standard program, maybe 12. And but I believe that Bitcoin will soon be spendable, easily spendable. And that'll create more transactions. And so a lot of those transactions might have to be off chain, but then eventually they'll all attach to the blockchain. So I think the future is very bright. I am thrilled with what people are using Bitcoin for now, moving money quickly and great storage of value. But down the road, it's going to be, and remittance, of course, which is sending money from one country to another very effectively. But I think it actually will be the global currency that we all very easily spend in all sorts of different ways. And I think in 5 years, you're going to try to buy a cup of coffee at Starbucks with fiat currency, and they will laugh at you and say, "Well, wait, why don't you have any Bitcoin, or don't you have any fiat, any cryptocurrency?" Because it's going to be so much easier, and it's going to move so much faster with so much less friction. And you won't be charged the 2%, you'll be charged significantly less because you're not using the credit card or whatever. So the future is incredibly bright, and I am excited about all the entrepreneurs that are building their businesses around Bitcoin, the blockchain, and ICOs.
People listening who have ideas that they want to pitch to you, how can they do that?
Well, the best way is to just put them up on our website. It's draper.vc, because we go through that. That's the simplest way. I get a bunch of emails that have business plans in them, but the most efficient way we can receive your information is to go ahead and put your business plan or your deck or whatever up on our site. It's pretty simple. Just go to draper.vc and submit a proposal. We get to it regularly, and we're always looking for new ideas. And before you submit, think hard. You might actually read my book, but you might all, and four of the chapters so far are on Medium right now. So you can read the first, or you can read 4 of the chapters just on Medium. I think it's Tim Draper on Medium. And you can get a little flavor for it and how to start thinking about your life, how to start thinking about becoming a hero or an entrepreneur. And then part of my book really does give you some real guidance on what kinds of things to think about before you submit a business plan.
Tim, everyone wants to develop the most productive thinking habits. How much time a day do you spend just thinking, just absorbing information? Maybe sitting around alone and thinking about ideas. How much time a day do you spend networking and talking, conversations that are insightful and meaningful?
Okay, so my when I wake up, I kind of have a meditative state, but I don't spend much time meditating. And I've kind of connected my conscious and my subconscious mind so that I go to sleep and actually solve a lot of my problems when I'm sleeping. And I'll wake up with a solution. That kind of works. It pays off to tell people what your dreams are, because then you'll connect those two. Anyway, then some sort of a meditative state when I just wake up in the morning. And then at work, it's much more meeting many people. I have meetings every half hour. I meet lots and lots of people. And then occasionally I will have, if somebody cancels or we have a little bit of a time, we might have a partners meeting. We'll talk through some more strategic issues for how we want to manage our own business. And then at night is when I kind of relax and do whatever mindless things that I want to do. And I, hang out with my family and do that kind of thing. So I think you really want your fresh time. You do a short meditation in the morning. And that meditation can be exercise. It can be just transcendental. It can be any number of different things, but have some sort of a healthy start to your day. And then approach the rest of the day with just, who can I meet and what can I learn from them, and what can I tell them and guide them? How can I guide them? And then after your day is done, well, what I tend to do is I relax for a while and then I catch up on my email late at night. So that's kind of the way it works. Although I travel a lot, so sometimes I'm off time, and so I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll do email, or I'll catch up on work that I've got to do. So that's kind of it. That's what I do.
Very interesting, and it's very inspiring to see that the activities that a very successful person does are not superhuman. They're very human. It's just the level that they're done at are higher than other people. So it's very interesting to know that. And obviously reading Warren Buffett's daily routine, where he says that for about 6 hours he just thinks, is very, it was very enlightening. And then 3 hours he spends talking to other people, which is very similar to what you're talking about.
I'll bet when he says he thinks, I'll bet a lot of that is reading.
Yes.
And analyzing the markets and doing, a lot of time spent doing that. I find that by having lots of meetings with people, I tend to learn more. People learn in different ways. I tend to learn from people.
2 books that you would recommend to people?
Well, my dad's book was fabulous. That was called The Startup Game. So mine's called The Startup Hero. The other book, 2 books. God, how do you narrow it down? Oh, okay. Bionomics by Michael Rothschild is an extraordinary book, and it connects biology with economics, but in a way that makes economics feel like a living, breathing thing rather than some Keynesian idea that it's all numbers. And I think that's valuable. And I think I like all the science fiction books, and I like Michio Kaku, the science writer, or it is sort of science fiction-y, where he talks about the future of physics or the future of whatever.
Hey, Tim, thank you very much. I appreciate you being with us.
Okay, bye-bye.
This was a powerful interview with one of the most successful people on the planet. Tim Draper was a seed investor with Skype, Hotmail. This is a visionary and a billionaire, and of course, he's a huge Bitcoin investor. With everything that's happening with cryptocurrencies and blockchain tech at the moment, the first thing you should do right now is spend at least 30 to 60 minutes a day learning about this. On top of this, do what I do. Check out local Bitcoin or blockchain meetups or conferences and go out there and network. That's how I knew about Bitcoin at $19 in 2013, Ether at $10 in November of 2016, Dash at $30, Monero at $9, and many more. And I think you should do the same. This is a great time for fortune-making opportunities, and I think that being cynical or indifferent about it will cause many regrets in the future. Currently, Wealth Research Group is researching opportunities in this sector with the aim of repeating our massive success with cryptocurrencies and our #1 blockchain stock that we recommended, which has gone up as much as 900% in 2 months. Make sure that you're subscribed to the free newsletter where we publish our top priority data and our highest convictions idea. And thank you for joining and tuning in.